What is up, everybody? It is June 29th, 2026, and today we're talking about some big things. We're talking about the Iran war. We're talking about the Israel-Lebanon war. We're going to talk about all of the massive information coming out of the Sneako and Rabbi Mizrachi debate. That was pretty huge. And also, we also have a lot of information coming out on pretty much everything when it comes to the Irish wars happening right now. We have mosques being burnt down. We have Dearborn, Michigan, which is, again, debatably being taken over by Muslims, and a lot of people are not so happy about it. Really, we have, in my opinion, an entire takeover of the United States of America, essentially concerning the entire, sovereignty over politics and pretty much all foreign policy right now. And a lot of people are debating. Is it the Israelis? Is it the Muslims? Or, what's really going on here? So we're going to cover it all. We're going to watch a series of videos, pretty much a ton of them. And we're going to read some articles, go through everything that happened over the weekend. Again, we had a lot of information last week that we covered. Go back and watch some of my live streams. Again, we're fighting the censorship right now, so be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. The things I talk about are definitely not stuff you're supposed to talk about, right? A lot of this stuff is highly sensitive. A lot of this information that we talk about is definitely controversial, and to be frankly honest, they don't really want you knowing about a lot of what's going on today, right? They kind of want you quiet. They kind of want you silent. They don't want you really questioning all the things that are actually happening in your country. And it's sad, but that's exactly what's going on. You can't really pretend like none of this is actually not happening, right? You have to be able to objectively see the truth. You have to be able to objectively see what's going on when it comes to the breaking news that's going on in the entire world. So be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. Again, everything I talk about is what you need to know. And everything that I talk about is some of the most important information that they don't really want you to know about. So again, we're fighting some of the censorship. Again, we're streaming through Rumble. Follow us on Rumble. You can follow me on Twitch. You can follow me on Kick. And again, you could watch on YouTube as well. I'm trying to branch off into as many platforms as possible because we want to broaden and widen that audience, right? And so, without further ado, let's get into the news. A lot of stuff to get into. And again, hopefully you had a good week. But without further ado, I'm jumping right in. So again, the Iran war live, Trump announces Qatar meeting. Tehran says nothing planned. So, who knows? How true is that? Well, the Iranians said that there are no talks taking place, right? U.S. President Trump said a meeting with Iran will be held in Qatar's capital on Tuesday after Tehran requested talks following days of reciprocal attacks threatened their interim deal, which happened over the weekend. There were some major strikes that happened by the United States on Qasem Island, and then essentially the Iranians struck back with retaliation strikes on the Fifth Fleet. And so those were drone attacks and missile attacks. And then we also, again, had Israel striking Lebanon underground tunnels, which contained a lot of military hardware, Hezbollah military hardware. So a lot of people are saying, hey, that's a good thing. We're taking out Hezbollah. A lot of people are saying, well, Israel just made a deal with the Lebanese, and this is not a good thing, right? So there's a lot of debates on whether or not this is really beneficial for what's going on today. And so we're going to cover all of this. However, a senior Iranian official said there are no planned meetings with U.S. officials from technical teams in Doha. So a lot of big news there. So when I look at this, I think it's just kind of insane that, we're really not talking more about it. Iranian President Mossad Pezeshkian says $6 billion of the $12 billion of its frozen funds held by Qatar will be released and returned to the country. Israeli forces killed 3 more Palestinians in Gaza, including a child, as its genocidal war on the Strip continues despite a U.S.-brokered ceasefire. So again, that comes from the Al Jazeera. And again, they're a pretty good news outlet. I would subscribe to them and follow them. They bring some pretty good news and everything that really is going on in the Middle East today. And they're pretty on it. Again, the Israelis have not been a fan of Al Jazeera because they've been so, on the point, on the money when it comes to some of these news articles. On top of that, we also have Trump's presidential powers reshaped by the Supreme Court rulings. This is also big news. So again, recently, the Supreme Court has basically decided that Trump can't have the power that he wants when it comes to continuing this Iran war. Some of this is good, some of it's bad, because it actually reinforces some of Trump's powers. So, honestly, at the end of the day, though, the Supreme Court, it's kind of up in the air. A lot of people like the Supreme Court we have today. A lot of people don't. I personally, I'm kind of in the middle when it comes to it. I think they've made some good decisions. I think they've made some good calls overall. But for a lot of the most part, they concern me a little bit, right? So, honestly, I think it's not the worst thing, though. So, Trump's presidential power is reshaped by Supreme Court rulings. So, let's take a look at this video covering some of that. I'm sure it'll make me watch an ad. Again, we're kind of glitching out. We're trying a few different platforms. We're trying a few different methods to multicast on Rumble and everything else. So we'll see how this goes.
Voting Rights Act. I know you said you haven't seen it.
When did it come out? Just now?
No, it came out this morning, but basically very much narrows the Voting Rights Act.
Was it considered a win for
a
who?
win for Republicans?
I love it.
But my question...
This is a very good... We can end this news conference right now. I want to read it.
My question
Wow.
to you, Mr. President, is that some Republican governors have not responded in terms of what they're going to do. I guess early voting, for example, in Louisiana
Republican governors, what?
Republican governors.
What about it?
Early voting begins Saturday there, for instance. Should they redraw the map in the next couple of
I would. I mean, it depends. I mean, some states don't need to redraw, and some do. I mean, I know what the concept of the rule. I just haven't seen the result. Yeah, I would say generally, I would think that they would want to do it. Some are greatly helped, and some, it didn't make much difference. Yeah, I would say they would do that.
So again, that's some of the news on that. That was just some video coverage of what's kind of going on with that story.
So where did you come from?
Georgia.
Sheesh. And then, so as we look deeper into this, the Supreme Court's final days delivered a series of major rulings reshaping the scope of presidential power under Donald Trump, expanding control over some agencies while drawing limits in others, alongside decisions affecting elections law, privacy rights, and federal authority. In a rapid succession of opinions released Monday, the justices split on key questions central to Trump's agenda, expanding presidential control over some independent agencies while drawing in others. The mixed outcome highlights both the court's readiness to revisit long-standing precedent and the reluctance to extend executive power uniformity across all federal government. So again, on top of that news, we also have, again, Israel's war with Lebanon. So this past weekend, we had Israel essentially sign a deal with the Lebanese government, basically that was supposed to lead to some sort of ceasefire, and it kind of gives the Israelis control of occupation. I covered this on Instagram. You can follow me on Brendan Ecker Official, where I cover a lot of these stories a little bit faster. I cover a lot of what's going on with the breaking news, and we clip a lot of the open source intelligence and what's going on out there. But again, behind the scenes, how shared fear of the Iran led to Israel-Lebanon deal. So again, both countries are fearing the Iranians, essentially, according to this article. This is from Axios. This story is based on conversations with the 6 U.S., Israeli, and Lebanese sources with direct knowledge of the negotiations. 4 days of nonstop negotiations in Washington this week between the Israeli and Lebanese governments were propelled by one clear shared interest: weakening the influence of Hezbollah and Iran in Lebanon, according to the U.S., Israeli, and Lebanese officials. Why it matters. The framework brokered by the Trump administration is the most significant political agreement between Israel and Lebanon in 4 decades. But all parties involved know the vision of peace it lays out may never materialize, amidst with the skepticism of deep concern that the deal could lead to a violent response from Hezbollah that could throw the country back into civil war. The agreement also seems to contradict some of the understandings reached between the U.S. and Iran and Switzerland, and could thus complicate that fragile truce. So the backdrop is that the Iranians managed to wrap the situation in Lebanon into its negotiations with the U.S. in recent weeks. That resulted in the Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU, that calls on parties to observe the ceasefire in Lebanon and to ensure the country's territorial integrity, which is actively undermined by Israel's ongoing occupation of southern Lebanon. And again, this has been a war of Israel, Hezbollah, the Lebanese army, and then now we have the Syrians, which is what the Trump administration, they want to institute some kind of regime change, and they want the Syrian government to now take over control. So we have 4 essentially regimes that are trying to take power and authority over the state of Lebanon, the sovereign state of Lebanon. And again, Lebanon is just north of Israel, and Israel has said they wanted to take Lebanon, southern Lebanon, the Golan Heights, and essentially everywhere from Tyre to Nabatea to Odessa, essentially that entire southern front, and they want to use that as what they call a buffer zone. This buffer zone is supposed to be a security zone. Essentially, the security zone, though, I think it is more for the Greater Israel Project. That's what a lot of different military analysts believe as well, and so that's kind of what we're looking at. During talks in Switzerland last Sunday, the U.S. and Iran agreed to create a new deconfliction cell together with the Lebanese and Pakistani and Qatari mediators to ensure the ceasefire in Lebanon holds. That shocked both Israeli and Lebanese officials, who saw it as bolstering Hezbollah and legitimizing Iran's influence in the country. The news also comes as Israeli and Lebanese diplomats were preparing for a crucial round of negotiations in Washington. Behind the scenes, when they met the State Department on Tuesday, Israeli Ambassador Yashil Later opened the first session with a strongly worded speech calling a U.S.-Iranian understanding on Lebanon a train wreck. Later asked the U.S. mediators whether the U.S. was actually still interested in weakening the Iran's influence in Lebanon, as the Israel-Lebanon talks had been aiming to do. Lebanon's representatives followed up with their own demands of the clarification. The Lebanese were on their heels, a source with direct knowledge said. While the U.S. mediators stressed the goal was to get an Israeli-Lebanese agreement with no outside interference, the first day of the talks was pretty oddly, a U.S. official conceded. The parties dug in on their positions, particularly on the security issues, and it felt to some participants as though the negotiations were actually moving backward, which in my opinion they definitely were. So as we zoom in, the talks took place on two tracks, a security track between military officers and a political track between diplomats. Senior Pentagon and State Departments officially mediated. The parties worked on three documents: a framework agreement, a security annex, and an agreement on the initial Israeli withdrawal from two pilot zones to be replaced by the Lebanese army. On Wednesday, the negotiations picked up steam. U.S. officials began to think an agreement could be signed the next day, but on Thursday, the tables turned again. As the days passed, the parties hardened their positions, and the U.S. couldn't bridge the gaps on all three documents to create a single package. The main dispute over the terms and the locations of the Israeli withdrawals. On Thursday evening, both Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Lebanese President Joseph Aoun hit in the brakes. Negotiations on both sides asked for more time to consult with their capitals, and the U.S. mediators agreed to extend talks by that day. The intrigue was that Secretary of State Marco Rubio landed back in Washington on Thursday night after a trip to the Persian Gulf. Rubio had been speaking on the phone with Prime Minister Netanyahu and Aoun since Tuesday, holding around 8 calls in total with the two leaders. Vice President Vance also spoke to each leader at least once. Rubio emphasized to Netanyahu and Aoun that it was important for President Trump for a deal to be wrapped up by the end of the week. Again, the Israelis have not cared about anything the United States has had to say. The Israelis are going to do what they're going to do. Netanyahu has said they're going to take southern Lebanon, and they're going to do it without the United States' permission. So essentially, they don't really care what we have to say. The high-level attention for Washington made it clear to both sides that there was a clear sense of urgency here, a source with knowledge said. On Friday morning, Rubio joined the talks to close the final gaps. Also involved in the final push were U.S. Chief Negotiator Dan Holler, U.S. Ambassador to Lebanon Michael Issa, CENTCOM Marines Commander Lieutenant Joseph Clearfield, and Pentagon official Daniel Zimmerman and Michael Domino. The U.S. asked Israel for 2 changes in the text in order to secure the deal, including an Israeli withdrawal from a village in southern Lebanon currently under the Israeli occupation, and a clear statement that this would mark the beginning of a broader process of redeployment out of Lebanon. Leiter pressed Netanyahu and other senior officials to agree to a call that became heated when Netanyahu resisted the changes. 2 sources said Leiter raised his voice as he made the case that the deal was an important achievement and Israel needed to sign. A source close to Leiter said he raised his voice because of the nose of the phone line. Leiter himself told Axios that he called to consult with officials back home who are customary during negotiations, and differences of opinions are natural. During one of the updated calls, a professional, substantive, and time-sharp discussion took place, during which a range of views was heard regarding the best way to maximize the achievements of the negotiations while fully safeguarding Israel's vital interests, he said. Again, all about Israel. Between the lines, there wasn't a lot of trust between Israel and Lebanon, but eventually both parties understood they needed to get the deal in order to keep control of the process and not allow Iran in, a source with direct knowledge said. Again, this is the United States and Israel working together in tandem, hand in hand, right? The agreement immediately increased internal tensions in Lebanon. Hezbollah tried to organize demonstrations in Beirut against the deal on Friday, but also managed to mobilize several hundred people who were quickly dispersed. On Saturday, Lebanese security forces took down dozens of protesters placed by Hezbollah on the main road to Beirut's international airport, thanking Iran's supreme leader for the ceasefire. In their place, the Lebanese government hung its own protesters with the slogan, "Lebanon First," some of which were burned by Hezbollah supporters on Saturday night. So what they're saying, Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem declared the agreement with Israel null and void and called it a humiliation, disgrace, and a surrender of sovereignty, which it 100% is. It really is. He stressed Hezbollah will continue its resistance to the Israeli occupation. Later on Saturday, Trump spoke with Aoun and congratulated him on the deal. Trump said that the U.S. would provide everything necessary to implement the agreement and to support Lebanon's sovereignty and the extension of Lebanon's state authority over the entire Lebanese territory, Aoun's office said. At the end of the call, Trump told Aoun he looked forward to meeting him soon at the White House. The visit is expected in mid-July, which is coming up. We're coming up on the end of June, so we're going to see a lot of things happening in July. And to me, this world war is just kicking up, right? So when we look at the oil prices today, we're sitting right around $70.33. Again, I think this is all inflated, not to be a doomer, but when you look at these oil prices, this is all based on statements. These are artificial prices to me. These are all based on presidential statements, and again, really just kind of trying to really manipulate the markets a little bit. Brent crude at $73.15, Merben crude at $69.16, and natural gas is at $3.17. So on top of that, we also have gold prices that we have to analyze. And when we look at this, we see that gold is now at $4,019.95. So again, we are literally $61.58 down, 1.51% since yesterday. And if we look at the 7-day, because again, if we just look at last week, we are pretty much in a position where, again, we went up a little bit. But really, in my opinion, I just don't see this going. This isn't really going so well. The oil prices are not looking good, really. When you look at, gold, I meant to say, when you look at gold, we are literally down 8% in the last 30 days. And then silver, we're down 21% in the last 30 days. So why is that? A lot of different market manipulation and things like that. Again, looking at the other markets and emerging markets, we have cryptocurrency. A lot of people making predictions on Polygon and Poly market. Again, this is huge. So this week, we have, again, the crypto market is way down. Extreme fear factor on the fear and greed index. Bitcoin's at 60,000 now. So we basically broke towards that consolidation zone. And again, a lot of different analysts have been saying if Bitcoin drops below 60,000, is it really going to be able to hit over 100,000 at any point soon? Probably not, and especially not with this Clarity Act basically being kicked down the road, right? And the Clarity Act needs to be passed. I keep talking about this every single live stream. We also have Ethereum at $1,610. We have Binance at $559.55, XRP at $1.05. So we are really down with crypto. Again, XRP is down 6% in the past 7 days. Solana is up 4.4% in the last 7 days to $75.18. We have Tron at 32 cents. Hyperliquid is at $66.91. So Hyperliquid's been doing pretty good. At least in the past 24 hours, they're up 10%. And then again, all of these other markets pretty much the same thing that we've been seeing, right? The entire market's not looking great. We have Stellar Lumens down 13% in the last 17 days. But the way I see it, these prices are on discount. And again, buy more. Because there's going to come a time where tokenization becomes a thing of the future and everything that you're going to see basically becoming a massive priority in the U.S. government. So you have to think about what's coming inevitably in the future, right? Larry Fink has already said tokenization is going to take place. And that's going to be basically tokenomics, as they say it. You have the Rothschilds who own billions and billions of dollars worth of crypto. At the same time, think about the national U.S. debt, right? We have $39 trillion debt. How are we going to pay it off as the United States, right? We're not going to let China win. That's probably not going to happen. I'd be very surprised. Then again, we do have Democrats who are very anti-crypto. But at the end of the day, again, I think it's inevitable. At some point, you're going to see some kind of massive movement with crypto, probably the darkest before the dawn, and we're living in it, right? We're in a recession. We're in the middle of the Iran war. The middle of this peace agreement, the oil prices, they're skiffing money out of the entire economy, out of tax dollars, anything they can to pay for this Iran war. So that's why you're seeing most of the prices with a lot of this stuff basically down right now, right? So you have to consider, what does the future say? And the future tells us that everything's going to be tokenized. And so with that being known, it kind of tells you where we're at, right? I don't think we're going to be in a position where this market's going to stay down for long. So I think people need to be really thinking about what's probably going to come. right? So when we look at the prediction markets and when we look at politics, because who cares about the World Cup? I'm not really a fan of sports. We follow things that are actually important. So a lot of politics, again, Democratic presidential nominee Gavin Newsom has a 20% chance of winning right now over, again, and this is just for the Democratic presidential nominee, 2028, just for the Democrats, against Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at 13%, and then John Ossoff at 9%, and Kamala Harris is still down there at 6.35%. For the Republican nominees, we have J.D. Vance at 38.4% chance of winning, Marco Rubio at 21.95% chance of winning, Tucker Carlson at 4.45%, and then Donald Trump Jr. at 2.4%. And then so when we look at the presidential election winner, this is kind of what we're seeing now based on the 2028 projections. J.D. Vance has a 20% chance of winning the presidential election in 2028, right? Marco Rubio's at 13.8%, and then Gavin Newsom's at 12%. So it's actually not that, it's really not that, it's not that far of a gap. You know, anything could happen. And then AOC is down there at 6%. So interesting things happening when it comes to the prediction markets and what's going on with politics. So again, I wanted to cover some of the stories that we've been seeing just in the past few days here. So when we look at all of the news, again, Israel bombs the Majdal Zaun village and the Majdal Zaun village in southern Lebanon, just 8 to 10 kilometers from the Israeli border. These were underground tunnels that contained Hezbollah weaponry, missiles, artillery, things like that. And so a lot of people are saying, yeah, this was a positive thing, right? Again, IDF engineers detonated 400 tons of Hezbollah's Majdal Zaun tunnel complex, pretty much all destroyed. So this is footage of that. So pretty huge when we look at all of this. This is just basically what's going on today in the world. And again, be sure to follow me on Brendan Ecker, at Brendan Ecker Official on Instagram. I cover a lot of content on there. Sometimes I'm able to put some music with it. YouTube is really stingy about copyright, so sometimes I really can't put music with a lot of my analysis here. But again, that's a pretty big story that came up. So this comes right after the entire peace deal between the Israelis and Lebanon. Right after the peace deal, you had some protests that took place, and then immediately you're seeing all of these strikes happen. So come on, you know, what is really going on? Well, this war isn't going to end anytime soon, right? And the Israelis have been very clear, not just Benjamin Netanyahu, but also the entire Israeli government, right? You also have Ben Gvir, who is basically, basically number 2 to Netanyahu. And he stated that, nope, we're going to use the Gaza model, and we are taking southern Lebanon with or without the United States' permission. The Lebanon Framework Agreement signed with Israel spurs protest and criticism, anger over the deal that does not force Israeli troops to withdraw from occupied land after months of deadly attacks. So again, what did the Israelis do after this deal was signed to basically, allow some kind of ceasefire? Well, it means that, the enemy seizes their fire and that, Israel fires, essentially, right? After the government of Lebanon and Israel on Friday signed a United States brokered framework agreement. Following months of direct negotiations, protests took the streets of Lebanon capital to express their anger at the deal. Many of the demonstrators waved flags of the Iranian-backed group Hezbollah, which has been military confronting Israel's ongoing invasion and occupation of large swaths of southern Lebanon. So again, we just watched footage of that strike. Pretty big news there. On top of that, these were some of the protests that we are seeing. So when we look at this, again, this is the Beirut protests, crowds burning tires, blocked roads over Lebanon-Israel deal. And you see basically chaos in the streets of Beirut, which isn't even southern Lebanon. But Beirut has been getting struck by the Israelis pretty hard for quite a long time now. So the Israelis are pretty intent on taking the entire state of Lebanon for that Greater Israel project, that Pax Judaica. And again, that goes along with Turkey. We have Erdogan, who is basically who the United States put into power for that specific role. So it's very interesting to see where things are going with all of this. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's going to be interesting to see just how much the Israelis are going to really back down no matter what Trump says, right? It's going to take the United States military going in there, or at least throwing sanctions on Israel or something, before the Israelis are going to do anything to stop. So again, we also had Breaking news in Russia. Ukraine strikes the Russian oil refineries following retaliation Russian-Ukrainian training bases. So again, basically the Ukrainians struck Russia just yesterday, and then we had the Russians striking Ukrainian training bases right after. Now you're seeing footage of that on the screen. You can see the circles, checking out the entire buildings and the infrastructure. And so the Russians and the Ukrainians, it's been tit-for-tat strikes. They've been just hitting each other hard, back and forth, back and forth. Some people are on the Ukraine side, some people are on the Russian side. You know, whose side are you on? Ultimately, when I look at this entire war, it seems to me that the Ukrainians started this war along with the United States, mainly by the United States, using Ukraine as a proxy to fight the Russians. And again, I mean, who's the Orthodox Christian country? It's really more the Russians when you look at it. People argue, well, it's because the Russians are communist. Well, I think America's more communist than Russia these days. You know, the videos I see of Russia, they're not throwing their soldiers into white vans, you know, and I'm not trying to be a propagandist here, but that's just kind of my position on it. So who knows what's going to happen with this entire war? It looks like the Ukrainians are actually holding up for themselves pretty well. Zelensky's actually been holding up his end of the bargain pretty well on this war. And I will say even Donald Trump complimented him and said that Zelensky hasn't been doing too bad. So again, but why is that? Because Lindsey Graham in the United States, we've been funding this entire Ukraine war. And so you're not really supposed to know that. But again, it's a proxy. So the Ukrainians are basically a proxy force for the United States to fight the Russians, which is absolutely insane. We should be allied with Russia. They should be a superpower of the United States. They're only the second greatest nuclear superpower. Makes no sense to be enemies with the Russians, really. Especially when we have pipelines that we could share with the Russians and we could extract a lot of natural rare earth elements. And again, you know, if anything, we should be taking, Ukraine. But again, that's more in the interests of the United States and Israel, and they've been working together in tandem on that for specifically rare earth elements, and then again for oil pipelines and such. So that's kind of what happened over the weekend also. It's crazy when we look at all of it. So again, we also had the Iran strikes continuing tit for tat, ending the MOU ceasefire. These were the U.S. strikes on Iran that we saw over the weekend. The United States aircraft just struck Iranian missile and drone storage locations and coastal radar sites. This was a Truth Social post by Trump. So again, unclassified footage right here. I covered this on the Brendan Ecker official Instagram page, and we also covered it again on YouTube as well, as you can see from this video right here. So this is kind of what we're dealing with when we look at all of this. And again, these sources come directly from CENTCOM, it's the Central Command. And then the Iranians, sound kind of randomly came on there. And then the Iranian retaliatory strikes on the U.S. Fifth Fleet in Bahrain just hours after the U.S. strike. So we struck them, and then the Iranians just struck us right back on Bahrain. Basically, the Iranians struck bases right back at us on Bahrain. So essentially, when we look at all of this, this war continues on between the Iranians. The MOU is pretty much ended, and there's going to be talking of the MOU continuing. Maybe there'll be nuclear inspections of some sort. There's supposed to be a meeting. The Iranians said that there is going to be no meeting. I think this war is only going to continue, which means that, as Lindsey Graham said, that if the war continues, if the Iranians don't back down, then basically Trump is going to take the Strait of Hormuz by force. That's literally what Trump has said, right? And so when we look at the actual footage of the ground or of the vessel activity or in military aircraft activity, we actually have a lot of interesting developments, okay? Largest U.S. military aircraft activity in the Middle East since 2003 Iraq war. Something big is happening. So again, this is huge indications. So just for like the past 7 days, we had C-17 Globemasters that have sustained high activity supporting the operations, right? So essentially, pretty much record activity in the Middle East, and we're seeing these patterns from all these different flights, and C-17 Globemasters pretty much suggesting that we have more military movements and we have more activity happening, which means the war continues on, and it's not going to end anytime soon. And so that's kind of where my position is, at least. On top of that, we also have escalation traps pretty much being notified. So when we look at the Strait of Hormuz and we look at the vessel activity, I thought this was rather interesting. A lot of these Oman vessels ended up going dark in the Strait of Hormuz. So as you can see here, a lot of AIS data pretty much went dark for the Omanian activity in the Strait of Hormuz. So that tells us that we have basically an illusionary idea and concept of what's actually happening with the movements of vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. Basically, the Iran chokes Hormuz, and they have basically set up an entire escalation trap. So this is only going to be a continued war of attrition when it comes to all of this. And that's really the most important thing to take from that. So pretty insane when we look at all of it. The question is, are we going to be able to win? Are we going to be able to truly, assert our will on the Strait of Hormuz and win? That's what Trump's real objective is here. So again, we had Trump speaking from the White House today. When asked about what are his plans for housing affordability on U.S. soil, Trump said he doesn't know. It's so unimportant.
Bill, Mr. President,
I don't know. I think it's so unimportant by compared to the Save America Act. I think the Save America Act.
So again, he's not wrong that the Save America Act is definitely important, but it's just the way that he says it. Like, he couldn't care less about the price of stuff being non-affordable for housing and whatnot. Let's listen to that one more time. I'm not a hater on Trump, but man,
Elections.
crazy statements.
the housing bill, Mr. President,
I don't know. I think it's so unimportant by compared to the Save America Act. I think the Save America Act.
This sounds like your grandpa when you go to Thanksgiving dinner and you ask about, oh, Grandpa, it's been hard for me to find a house and, basically find affordable housing. And your grandpa's like, I don't know. We can't afford any of that. We really need to worry about the Save America Act, which we do. But it's like, it's just the tone of voice with Trump. Like, he's getting old as an old man. And again, that boomer mindset is basically just like, hey, you know what? Screw the younger generation. You don't get it. And, we need to save America. We need the Save America Act. That's what Israel told me. And we need to stand up for Israel and do whatever they tell us. So, again, we also had more statements from Trump from the White House. It's not socialism. It's really communism. They use the words of social democrat because it sounds so nice, but it's really communism you're talking about. I think it's the biggest threat to our nation there is, maybe, since our founding. I definitely agree with this.
It's a big threat to our nation.
It is.
Because it's not socialism, it's really communism. They use the word social democrat because it sounds so nice, but it's really communism you're talking about. I think it's the biggest threat to our nation.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
There is, maybe since our founding. That includes World War I, World War II, September 11th. It includes the
who did September 11th? Who was behind that one?
Pearl Harbor attack. I think this is the biggest threat to our nation. People will smile when I say that, but the smart people are going to say, he's probably right. It's basically introducing communism into the United States of America.
The reason he's saying this, too, is because you have Mamdani, who took over, who basically just won in New York, and his candidates won in New York, and he is a full-on Muslim. And so a lot of people say, well, the Muslims brought down the 9/11 Twin Towers. I say that the Israelis did it. I think they blamed it on the Muslims. Regardless of the fact, we will never forget. And it looks like everybody forgot. And we forgot who actually, was behind that. We forgot what happened to the city of 3,000 New Yorkers basically killed. We all forgot about World Trade Center Building 7. We forgot about the dancing Israelis. We forgot about the FBI apprehending these, these college students, these art students, these filmmakers who essentially filmed the entire buildings falling. And again, at the same time, Mamdani is essentially taking property of white people right now. Again, this has nothing to do with race. This is just what he said, okay? And so Mamdani basically said, we're going to take property from the white homeowners and we're going to distribute it out on an equal level, on an equal class rate. And it's just like, basically, if you owned your home, it's going to go to foreigners and third worlders now. And so that's really what's going on. And that is communism, okay? And at the same time, tax rates going up, and essentially, it's not going to be on the rich. It'll be on the middle class. It's going to be a war in New York City. And what you already see happening, you're not going to be able to recognize New York City. And again, this has nothing to do with race. This is basic national security. What is socialism is basically offering free stuff with no promises, and within a few years, none of that is there. And you don't really get anything for free, right? You've never seen it. It's never worked. It's never been successful. People will compare that to Russia and how Russia's a successful state today with communism. Russia's not a communist state. Russia's rather free, more free than the American press will make you believe. Okay, and so we have a lot of these misconceptions about Mamdani and how it's a good thing that he's taking over New York City. And when it's like, no, we should have like actual Americans who are in control of New York City. We should have actual Americans who who are being elected in there. Again, not Jews, not Muslims. It needs to be Americans. It needs to be somebody who is not pro-Israel first. It needs to be somebody who is also not, pro-Muslim and all of this stuff. It needs to be pro-America, right? And so you have, the creators like Sneako, and I like Sneako. I watched the entire interview. We're going to watch a little bit of it. We're going to do some coverage on the debate with Sneako and Rabbi Mizrachi, however you pronounce that. And basically their debate on why, what is the truth behind Islam versus Judaism versus Christianity, and we'll look into that. But, when I see Sneako and he's celebrating the Muslim takeovers of all of these cities in Europe and America, and you see these Muslims who are praying in front of Catholic churches, and it's just like, it's kind of sickening. It's like, why would you support that? As an American, do you really care about America first? Why would you want a completely different people to come into our country and, again, start invoking Islam, which is completely opposite to Christianity? They call Christianity a false religion. They say that we're idol worshipers, which we're not. Again, it's all subjective, really. But what do they believe should happen to non-Islamic people, non-Muslims? Well, they believe that there should be jihad on them, which is violence and forced submission. And honestly, it's like, well, how is that the holiest religion at the end of the day? That's just unacceptable for America. And so it's kind of insane when we look at all of it, in my opinion. So when I look at that, it's just like, what is really going on? So when I see that, I just think it's rather concerning. I see all these things happening to America. It seems like we're losing our country rather quickly, right? So this was another statement by Trump. It signs an order to stop people from being arrested or targeting fixing their vehicle, giving the right to fix, common sense. This also breaks up California-based monopoly on third-party car parts certification.
We are not going to be going after people who are fixing their own vehicle like past administrations have. Additionally, we've been concerned, President Trump has been concerned about aftermarket parts, cheap knockoff aftermarket parts coming into the United States, harming small businesses, harming Americans. This presidential memo puts an end to it. Also, the only third-party certification for these aftermarket parts is CARB in California, a process that's backlogged and faulty. So we're going to break that monopoly, and no longer will CARB be the only third-party certifier for these aftermarket parts.
I mean, that's great and all, but how does this have anything to do with what's really going on in America? How is this of the utmost importance right now, currently, of the most pressing issues in this country? Car parts? Really? Car parts? Yeah, I mean, literally, they're making electric vehicles, and they're making it a requirement for you to buy electric vehicles. So ultimately, it's like, what? That doesn't even make sense. Why is this even a thing? When we've lost the Save America Act, we do have socialism/communism. To me, it's generally the same thing. And you have these complete third worlders and immigrants coming into our country, taking over our justice system, all of this stuff. And we're worried about car parts? And again, for people who can't even afford cars right now in the United States because gas prices are so high in general. And again, people who are trying to afford a vehicle at the same time now have to pay for an electric vehicle by requirement in some states. It's a little crazy.
President Trump was calling me up on a Saturday night when this idea first came to his head, and he says he wants to do a press conference right away to get this over the top. In February 2nd, we signed a right to repair for our farmers so that they can repair their tractors and their non-road equipment, and this is covering everyone else.
And just to note that a lot of these resources that are going to be produced by these farmers, Trump had already said, that's part of the $300 billion that's going to Iran right now. So it's like, that's what this is really for.
It came to my attention because I noticed they were arresting people for fixing their car. They were arresting people.
Yeah, that is nuts.
That's not even believable. Anyway, so it's right to fix. And
right to fix your car.
It's really common
what
sense.
are we doing here?
If somebody wants
right to fix your car. This country's so dead that we have a right to we have to create a right to fix your own car legislation. How far have we gone south? How far have we really lost who we are as a nation? Is any of this acceptable? Honestly, we need a revolution. We truly do. We need a revolution. There needs to be a tyrant that is pro-America first, pro-common sense, not for everything that we're seeing today. You shouldn't have to make a law for car parts and being able to to fix your own car. It's kind of insane. This is common sense stuff. But we have to make a law for it because our country's so overrun by liberals and insanity. That's just nuts.
Mr. President, this is a presidential memo to the Environmental Protection Agency, a presidential memo supporting the freedom to fix. Americans
we
have
watched
the
this
freedom
already.
to fix their vehicle.
I guess this is the same
Trump
clip.
insists upon it.
So I guess we covered that. But honestly, it's just like insane. Like, who else is sick of watching America die? Like, is anybody else tired of watching their country just be completely taken over by people who really hate us, who hate this country, who don't appreciate living here, who don't appreciate our Constitution or understand our Constitution? You know, it's absolutely insane. And we're going to watch clips of this today. You know, just the amount of traitors in our country now, in the United States, is at a record level. And we're truly losing our sovereignty, right? So again, some people might debate me on this and whether or not this is okay. You might say, well, this is just American. You have a freedom of religion in America. But it's like, yeah, well, you know, when you are a police officer, you kind of have an obligation to serve the American flag first. You take an oath to serve the American flag first.
A wonderful wife.
So look at this.
A strong, proud Palestinian woman. When I joined the department, Dearborn's Arab American population was nearly 50%. Yet less than 3% of our police force reflected the community that we served. The department was not always welcoming to people who were different. Today, the Dearborn Police Department is the department that I wish I worked for when I first started my career. It's now a department that reflects and embraces the community it serves, with 45% of our officers being Arab American.
Why is that something to celebrate? I mean, America is a European white country, and I know diversity is the main thing for police officers. A strong law enforcement department today depends on our diversity factor and whether or not we can virtue signal enough. But it's like, when you take the oath to the American flag, you take the oath to place the American flag in the U.S. Constitution above any other flag. Any other flag. America comes first, not another flag. And basically, this is what this man is doing. This is a police officer who is a traitor. He should have his gun stripped, his badge stripped, and his power stripped away from him. This is a traitor to law enforcement. This is the reason great police officers can't become police officers, because they want to hire 45% police department, a 45% Muslim Arab police department in Dearborn, Michigan. That makes no sense. This is absolutely insane. This is a takeover. And whether or not you agree with the whole Muslim debate, again, you have pretty much a fine line. You have people who are saying, well, I don't have a problem with the Muslims because I have a problem with Israelis taking over our government. Well, I don't have a problem with the Israelis taking over our government, but I got a real problem with Muslims taking over our government. You have two sides to the spectrum. And really, it's like, well, how about none of them? Like, how about we just, literally defend ourselves? How about we have a Christian country, Christian police departments, Christian Catholic based, 100%, and no Arabs, no Jewish. And again, we keep our country as was, a white European country. This has nothing to do with white nationalism. This is like keeping America first, America first. Why do we have these foreigners coming in to try to take over our police departments now? A 45% Muslim Arab police department in Dearborn, Michigan. That's insanity. And, these are people who don't believe in the U.S. Constitution. These are people who do not believe in our Bill of Rights. These are people who do not understand freedom of speech. If you were to go to... how many videos have you seen on X when you see these people getting recorded and they're freaking out over it? And they're telling you, you cannot record me. And same thing. I mean, honestly, you can't do any of this. And then same thing with the Israelis taking over our country. If you talk or criticize the state of Israel, you talk about the war, you talk about the real genocide that's happening in Gaza or Palestine. Oh, well, you're not allowed to talk about that. So Americans are being hit from two sides here. Europeans. And same thing with the Irish, the Germans, the Swedes. Like literally one of the foreign ministers for Sweden literally just moved out of Sweden because he said, oh my God, this country is being taken over. He literally said it. He just left this past weekend. So, this is Dearborn, Michigan, and this is what this guy is saying.
It's a department that respects the dignity and rights of all individuals, including the right to wear hijab, even when facing the justice system.
Traitor, we should deal with traitors in a different way than just allowing them to wear the badge and the gun and enforce the law of which they do not even understand. This is an unconstitutional law. This is a traitor. This is treason.
It's a department that is taking meaningful steps to address historical inequity. Together, we've built a police department that values diversity, equity, and respect. one that serves all of Dearborn with honor and integrity. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. I'm proud to serve as your chief of police. My wonderful wife, Deanna, a strong, proud Palestinian woman.
Seriously.
When I joined the department,
Like what?
Dearborn's Arab American population was nearly
Crazy.
50%. Yet less than
One more
3%
time.
of our police force reflected the community that we served. The department was not always welcoming to people who were different. Today, the Dearborn Police Department is the department that I wish I worked for when I first started my career. It's now a department that reflects and embraces the community it serves, with 45% of our officers being Arab American.
These are people who pray in front of churches, Christian churches, with total disrespect. These are people who have said that they are going to inflict jihad on anybody who does not believe in the Muslim faith. And these are people who do not respect the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. These are people who have literally said that they are here to take over. These are people who believe that it is okay to, again, have marriages with a 9-year-old child as a grown man. Again, I'm not totally hateful of Muslims. I respect their culture, but it's like, have it in your own countries and stop coming over to our country, please. Like, go back to your own country. Like again, no problems with these people, but it's like, go back to your own country. Like, seriously, stop trying to take over the United States. Stop trying to take over our police departments. There will be a revolution for this. And I'm not saying I support violence or anything, but this is a complete and total takeover of America. What a traitor. This is a disgrace of a man, a disgrace of a police officer. He should be stripped of that badge and it should be ripped off of his chest. And this man should go home feeling like a traitor and a non-American every single day, because that's really what he represents. He represents changing the demographics of America, changing the U.S. Constitution. He is not upholding the oath that he took to uphold and defend the Constitution. This is a traitor.
Department that respects the dignity and rights of all individuals, including the right to wear hijab, even when facing the justice system.
So how come in their countries women aren't allowed to show their legs? How come if you go over to Saudi Arabia, women aren't allowed to show their legs? Then I don't understand that, sir. I mean, we think that that's such a virtue that we allow them to wear their hijab and, bring their customs and cultures, and they're aggressive and totally hostile towards America way of life. But if you go over to their country, you get stoned to death. You get basically tortured. Women have no rights, essentially. Kind of insane. Kind of nuts, actually. And so, yeah, kind of weird. This is called cuck. This is called a total traitor. This is called total treason. And again, there used to be a way that we handled these people called traitors. There used to be a way we handled them. This is a traitor to America. And this is not a police officer. And I say that as a police officer, this is an enemy of the state.
It's a department that is taking meaningful steps to address historical inequity. Together,
historical inequity. This is our country. Why? What? What are you talking about? They have more rights than Americans today. White Europeans today have no rights. What are you talking about? These people don't even have to have jobs. Many of these people don't even work. Many of these people say they are sick. They are sick. They cannot work. And it's like they come over here and they enjoy the EBT card. These people live off of the welfare system. And we say that this is unequal. This is an idiot man that you're looking at right here on the screen in this video. This cop in this uniform is a moron. And this is a liberal. This is what's happened to police departments all across the country. This is treason. This is why our country is going down. Like, this is a total traitor. And he should be ashamed of himself. Americans should be pissed off. And you have every right to protest against this. People should be storming the streets of Dearborn, taking their country back. Personally, again, I don't care how peaceful that, these people appear to be or claim to be. It's, you hear them on Twitter. They brag about taking over America all day long. So it's just, honestly, listen, I have nothing against the Muslims. What I have against the Muslims is their hatred and disdain towards Christianity. Their ruthless nature of essentially praying in front of churches, Christian and Catholic churches. You see it every day on Twitter. And you got these cops, white police officers, who are just bending over and cucking for this totally different religion out of fear. This is a fearful man that you're looking at on the screen. This is a fearful cop of Dearborn, Michigan, and he should be stripped of his badge. And quite honestly, he should never be able to call himself a police officer again. And I don't care if any other police officers disagree with me. They're probably liberals, and they should also be stripped of their badge. So Terrible.
Build a police department that values diversity, equity, and respect. One that serves all of Dearborn with honor and integrity. Alhamdulillah.
Honor and integrity. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. I'm proud to serve as your chief of police.
Disgusting. You absolute traitor. We're going to deal with you people soon enough. You are not a police officer. You should never be able to call yourself one, sir. Ugh, it's just terrible, guys. This is just rough. Again, you say that there's not a takeover happening, but then you see these videos. This video is just glitching at the moment. So again, this is a country who's completely trying to take over America. This is what they believe in. This video's just not loading too well right now. This is not America. Like, go back home. Like, what are you doing in America? Why are you here? You're sitting in the greatest country on earth, the most free country on earth. Our country allowed you to live here under completely insane liberal circumstances. We gave you freedom from your third world war zones, and you come here waving your flag in total disdain for America. And they say we need more of these people. We need more immigrants. This is my issue. These are the most ungrateful kinds of Americans. And again, I have nothing against Muslims. Honestly, I would rather Christians and Muslims unite against the Israelis who are truly taking over America right now. But it's like, man, if you want to get people to really be against you, this is how you do it. If you want to be a Muslim who's going to get driven out of America, this is definitely how you do it. You're going to get driven out. You're truly going to allow Christians to end up siding with the Israelis, and they're going to just push you guys out. And so there's going to be no really happy ending when this is how you approach it. You get to live in America for free. You don't have to work. You live here under no circumstances do you even have any kind of problems. You have more rights than the actual native people who live here, and you are waving another foreign flag in our country. Like, you are racists, you are unconstitutionalists, you are trying to destroy and change our country and turn our country into a third world war zone, and it's exactly what's happening. And now, because we have to welcome so many of these people in, they're taking over cities like Dearborn, Michigan, all over the place, and they are changing the demographics, and they are changing the culture, and now we are going to live in a third world war zone, just like where they came from, because that's what they want to do. They want to turn our country into a war zone like theirs, and then they can rule over us. You have city councils with real Muslims and jihadists who are quite literally taking the rights away from white people all over the country, who actually have jobs and pay for these people to live here. It's the most sickening, demonic thing you could really ever see. So America's going to have to decide. Muslim call to prayer at 5 a.m., or would you like Christians to run things? Do you want to have a Christian country where you can walk the streets, your family can actually walk outside without getting stabbed by these people? Or, do you want your country to be, run by Jews who are going to basically allow this war to keep happening? They're going to bring in more of these people. That's really what we're living under. We're living under an Israeli tyranny where the policies and legislation today allow these people to flood into our countries. And like a war zone, it's creating that. In our first world, our beautiful homeland is being taken away because of these kinds of people. It's horrible. We need to fight back. There needs to be a crusade again. These people need to be reminded exactly, who the superpower is. These people should be reminded that this is America first. And you have a right to stay here if you wave the American flag, but I don't see one American flag in that video, and that's a problem. These are terrorists. You're coming over to here to take over and bring the Palestinian flag over and, bring the Syrian flag and the Iraqi flag and all this stuff. And it's like, well, where's the American flags? Where's your love for America? We're the ones who let you in here. We gave you the freedom you have, and you want to just spit on it? Maybe you don't deserve to live here in this country. And so there needs to be a crusades. And it's going to happen because these people are just asking for it. Christians had no problems with Muslims, first, by the way. You know, it's not the white people who are racist against Muslims. It's the Muslims who are racist against white people, right? It is the Jews and the Muslims together who are really like working together against white people today. And it's insane because they say that the Christians worship a false idol. But it's like, well, last time I checked, it wasn't the Christians who were burning down villages. Last time I checked, there's more Christians on earth than ever before, and that number's rising. Last time I checked, it's not. It seems like these two countries are at war with each other, and they're trying to put Christians in the middle of it. Christians have a belief of freedom, prosperity, forgiveness, you know, turning the other cheek. We also do believe in self-defense, which is going to happen, going to have another Crusades. But these people really do believe that, you know, their religions, for some reason, are the most dominant religion, and anybody who doesn't believe in their religions, whether it's Judaism or Islam, should be killed. And it's like, well, obviously this isn't the winning team. Obviously, these aren't the good guys. So again, look at this clip. This is Sneako and Rabbi Mizrachi. I don't know how to pronounce this dude's name, but this is what he had to say.
According to the world today, which has about 8 billion people, besides the Muslims, which are close to 2 billion, and they are not idol worshippers, almost everybody else are idol worshippers. Either they believe in Buddha, or they believe in JC, or they believe in all kinds of gods of the Hindus, or Jews that believe that their rabbi is God or is the Messiah. Yeah. They are also idol worshippers. Correct. There's no discrimination.
Correct, Rabbi Mizrachi. I can't wait for us to be allies. Watch, the next thing Sneako is going to say is how the Jews and the Muslims need to unite against Christians. That'll be the next message. And it's just like, dude, like, move out of our country. If you hate America so much, and if you really want to side with the Jews on everything, it's like, really? You think that Christians worship an idol, but it's like, listen, the Muslims at the end of the day, and even Sneako admits this, Muslims and Christians have far more in common than the Jews, you know? But the one thing about the Muslims and the Jews, they get together pretty well because their belief is that anybody who is a non-Jew should be killed. Anybody who is a non-Muslim should be killed and have jihad inflicted on them with violence and forced submission. How is that okay? That's not a civilized society at all, by any means. And again, all these people do, they want to conquer by force, and it's like, for what? To turn our nation, our beautiful first world nation with beautiful architecture, you know, you think America's so bad, then it's like, leave our country. It's like, what, you want to change our country into the desert? You want to make us a third world war zone with Israel forever? Seriously, and same thing with the Israelis. Like, you want to turn us against the Muslims for Gog and Magog in this entire war that they believe is going to happen between the Christians and the Muslims, or the Christians and Muslims are going to unite against the Israelis. It's insane. It's total blood libel, a 2,000-year grudge against Christians and Romans and all this stuff. And it seems like it's like pure jealousy. Christianity is the way, Christ is king, and they hate to admit that.
Jew believe that his rabbi never died and he runs the world. He's an idol worshiper.
He's an idol worshiper. Like, they're so angry. Why? Like, what's with the anger? Like, why are you talking about us, dude? Like, worry about your own country. Worry about Israel. Seriously.
If a Christian believed that JC, a human being that
JC, he doesn't even say the name,
could not even save his own life, and the Romans butchered him, and he was crying for his life, he's gonna save them, they live in some kind of illusion.
Empty tomb, bro. Empty tomb. Explain the empty tomb then. Explain all of the different explain the Immaculate Conception. Explain how there was an empty tomb after Christ's crucifixion. That was the proof of life. That was the proof that Christ was the physical manifestation of God on earth, was the fact that he rose from the dead 3 days later. That is the entire story that the Jews want to leave out. They want to leave all of that out of the real equation. And again, we had witnesses to this. We had people who could not find the body. So what is with that? Kind of interesting how that all works.
This is all idol worshipping. In the 10 Commandments, it says you should not have any other God but me.
Yep.
And making another entity.
Yep. Good job, Rabbi.
Makes you an idol worshiper.
Like, honest to God, it's just like pure insanity. Pure insanity. This is what Rabbi Mizrachi says about Christians.
6 billion idol worshippers who makes God angry every second of their life. Indian, Chinese, Japanese, Tibet, Nepal, Thailand, So many. India alone is 500 million. China is 2 billion. So many. 2 billion Christians, which are idol worshippers. Between Chinese, Hindus, Buddhists, and Christian, at least 6.5 billion people are idol worshippers that, according to the Torah, do not have the right to live. Idol worshipper goy, it's death penalty. Not only Jews, even a goy who bow down to an idol, who believe in JC, deserve death penalty.
So what are the Jews going to do when they take over Lebanon, they get their Greater Israel project? Well, if you ask me, it seems like they're really interested in taking on the Christianity and doing everything possible to destroy Christianity. And what is with this? I don't understand. I mean, he just said it. You know, the Torah says Christians should be killed. You know, they believe that, again, Sanferim 15, they believe that, again, all Goyim, even the best of Goyim should be killed. This is a quote directly from the Torah, definitely directly from the Talmud. This is what they believe. They believe that the Goyim, non-Jews, are animals. They're like cattle. And, you just have to believe in the Noahide laws. Well, it's like, you know, you don't even honor your own laws. You don't even honor your own laws. You don't love your brother. You know, this man himself, you know, you could call him an idol worshiper. Like, honestly, at the end of the day, you killed Christ. You killed your own prophet. You killed the Messiah, who even the Muslims acknowledge as a Messiah, as a prophet, as a man of the Immaculate Conception. So it's like you got all of this nonsense. Like, these people truly hate America. They believe America is Amalek or Esau, which is, again, same thing with Europe and America. They kind of put them in the same boat. Jews in general. They put Europeans and they put Americans in the same boat with one another. And it's just like, seriously, what the hell? You know, last time I checked, there was a lot of problems with the Jewish religion. And last time I checked, again, you guys killed Jesus, who you called your king. You had, what was his name in the Bible? Can't remember it at the moment. But even he was a Pharisee who knelt to Christ and he kissed his hand. I can't remember the name. But at the end of the day, these people, even Christ said, were the synagogue of Satan. And they killed their prophets. And so it's like, these people are just deluded. Absolutely deluded. As we continue looking at this, Sneako was shot after Rabbi Mizrachi said he would rather live with Muslims than liberal Jews like Benjamin Netanyahu. I would rather be neighbors with Muslims than people like Benjamin Netanyahu, he says. So, you know, honestly, the entire Jewish agenda is to destroy Christianity. You know, they don't really have a problem with Islam because Islam, at the end of the day, is beneficial towards the mission of Judaism, which is to essentially eradicate Christianity. Why? Because Christianity is the real truth. You know, they got no problem if you talk badly about, you know, Islam or Christianity. They got a real problem, though, when you actually start saying that Christ is the way, like that Christ is king. They got a real problem with that one. Why is that? Because it's the truth. You know, they have no problem with anybody worshiping Islam, and at the end of the day, they have their own, you know, he's got his messages on it and all of this stuff, but Christ is the way, and they hate to admit it.
2 weeks after the U.S. blacklisted...
Meanwhile, China report confirms Beijing just slimmed massive export restrictions on major U.S. defense contractors like Lockheed Martin and Boeing. Washington is panicking as China brilliantly cuts off vital rare earth materials.
Nearly 80 Chinese firms over alleged military ties, including BYD, Alibaba, and Baidu. Beijing has fired back. China's Ministry of Commerce announced Monday new export restrictions on dual-use goods on 10 American companies, including rare earths giants MP Materials and USA Rare Earths. Beijing also simultaneously barred government procurement from nearly 50 U.S. defense contractors, like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and General Atomics. Beijing's message is clear: Washington's moves won't go unanswered. Experts call the response largely symbolic but strategically pointed, mirroring the U.S. tactic of using export controls as a geopolitical cudgel. With both sides now slapping restrictions on each other's corporate giants, it appears the trade war may be escalating.
This is the problems with globalism. This is what's wrong with globalism. This is why America should stop focusing on funding every other country. We need to worry about our own country. China's worrying about themselves. They're building up their own military. They're collecting money, and they put it into their own infrastructure, their own navy. They put it into their own mass production, their own real estate development. They are going to destroy us. They put it all towards environmental research. They are going to dominate the Americans. A lot of people think it's going to be the Israelis. Maybe it'll be the Israelis. They already kind of do via policy in Congress and, HR 8800 and Section 222 to 224 and 618. But at the end of the day, you also have the Chinese who are strategically playing a long game. And the Chinese are going to continue playing the same game where over time they're going to end up buying land from the Americans for millions of dollars. And just the same way that we bought this land from the Native Americans, they're going to buy it from us. And Americans will say, well, you stole our land. Well, it'll be, no, the Chinese bought it. And that's how the Chinese are going to do it. Now, the Israelis are just going to do everything that they're doing in Gaza and Lebanon. They're going to do this stuff right on American soil. It's just not our turn yet. And ultimately, that's, something people need to talk about. This is why I don't get views, by the way. This is why my channel gets totally censored, because I talk about this right here and these kind of issues. They don't want you knowing about it. And this is what's really going on. This is the problem with globalism at a mass rate. This is why this cannot be accepted in our country. And again, when you invite in the third world, import the third world, you become the third world, ultimately. That's what this is all about. Because watch this video. A military veteran who is battered by police riot shields in Southampton has been found not guilty of assaulting a police officer. 50-year-old Matt Styler was found not guilty at the Southampton crowd in court today. So what have we been seeing in England? We've been seeing a massive, massive tyranny. And again, we have the police and the UK who have been completely against the people. And ultimately, it's just been really unjust. Wow. So they feel real tough. These cops feel real tough when they're banging on the natives of England, and they feel real tough and big and bad and powerful as police officers when they're beating up their own people. But when, again, Henry Nowak gets stabbed by some Sikh Indian, oh, I don't think you've been stabbed, mate. I'm sorry for the racism this young man had. I'm so sorry. We are apologetic as our British selves. We want to invite more of your people in. Sikh Indian, could you please stab my daughter too? Could you please do that? It would be amazing if you could do that to my children as well. And, you have this sycophantic welcoming to the third world in England. And again, Ireland and all these different countries. And you have total injustice happening. Natives of these countries being brutally murdered by different people of different religions, and they have no concept of reality, really. And some of the lowest IQ people, military-aged men, fleeing war zones, and they are the worst of their countries, being brought into our countries by who? The Jews. And the Jews are allowing this via legislation. And so the British, you got the UK police, they got a real problem with actual British people fighting for their country. And then you got the UK police who are they feel big and bad fighting their own people because they're familiar with their own people, right? They feel like, oh yeah, they actually respect us, so they're easy targets. But then you have, again, the Sikh Indians who are coming in wielding total swords, and then Muslims wielding machetes and truly saying that we're going to take over your country. Muslims saying that, oh yeah, England would be great if you you can keep your same flag, just erase the red from it and keep it a white flag and call it that, and that'll be the new British flag. It's a flag of surrender, essentially. And thought it was kind of clever, right? But at the end of the day, this is the evil that's happening in these countries, right? the UK police is fighting against their own people. And I ask, what's going to happen in America when we have cops like the Dearborn police who are completely degrading the, real value of the U.S. American flag, our Constitution, and they're just saying, I'm proud to say that we have a 45% Arab police department, and it's amazing that we have diversity in this country. And it's like, you're literally putting another flag above your own, though. You're literally destroying the America that we should have, which is honestly our own people as police officers, people who understand our country and our constitution, people who actually can relate to the community, okay? And so somebody would say, well, Dearborn's mostly a Muslim community. Well, it's like, yeah, well, that's the problem. We're importing the third world, and they are becoming the first world. So now the first world is being destroyed by the third world by importing all these Muslims. Again, if 100,000 Muslims take over a small country of 10,000, Europeans, guess what? That country is Muslim now. This is how it works. And so this is an orchestrated by a purposeful invasion happening, and you have politicians and law enforcement who is just accepting all of it, and they're inviting it all in. And now they're fighting against their own people. These aren't cops. Cowards. But, when Henry Nowak gets stabbed with a knife and by a Sikh Indian wielding a sword, oh, I don't think you've been stabbed, mate. I think you're just a bit of a racist. I'm sorry, Sikh Indian. Could you please stab my daughter too? I'd appreciate that. Would I be less racist in that case, sir? It's like, it's ridiculous.
Kill that geezer in a minute.
Unbelievable. And this goes on and on and on. So that, again, is in England today. And then we go over to Ireland. A mosque went up in flames. And so now they're calling the white man bad because a mosque is up in flames. Oh, the racist white man against the Muslims. But again, this is happening just after some Somali African literally took out the eyes of a native Irishman. Sorry, it's graphic, but it's true. Literally tried to cut this man's head off and decapitate him, and then tried to take his eyes out. Man died. And again, the government did nothing. They said, we are not a country of racism. Again, the Irish, we're not the country of racism. We are so welcoming towards the foreign third world immigrants. It's ridiculous. So again, of homelands. Look at Ireland. This is Ireland. Half of these people aren't even white. They don't even look like they're Irish. But they call themselves Irish because they have an Irish passport. It's a of our church. Okay. But when a mosque gets burnt down, and who knows who even did it, by the way, could have been one of their own people. Just by not knowing how to use a freaking, stove, honestly. And we're called the bad guys. And so it's horrible to see. We need a revolution. People need to defend their homelands, though. And this is what happens when politicians who are corrupt bring in the third world. You import the third world, you're going to become the third world. First world countries, when you import the third world, you'll become the third world. It's as simple as that. All right? That's just the way it is. And there's so many of these examples. So again, this brings me to this post by Greg Bavino. Whether you like him or not, he had posted how the same thing, basically. When you import the third world, you become the third world. Take a look at this video. So this is France. France's second largest city. France's second largest city. They imported so many Indians, and now it's a total shithole. It looks horrible. And if you say what I'm saying, you're a racist. If you say what I'm saying, you're bad. Even though you want to protect your first world country from this, you don't want your neighborhood looking like this. But if you say anything about it, you're a racist, and you're not bad. You're bad. And you have white liberals who are defending these people and who say, oh, these poor people need to be brought into our countries, but yet they do this in your backyard. It's just it is a complete difference in IQ levels. And you have these sympathizing white liberals overall, mostly white liberal women, who are allowing these people in mass droves. And then you got people like Sneako who are doing their little chest thing and supporting it because they want to see America die. It's horrible. And again, so this is what Greg Bavino, again, he was former Border Patrol, head of Border Patrol, and he was basically, and again, he was a big part of the Minneapolis ICE protests. A lot of people hate ICE. Doesn't matter. He's right here. When he says, import the third world, become the third world. This is Marseille today, people throwing garbage from their windows, turning once clean French neighborhoods into landfills. Yeah, who do you think's living in these apartments? These are third world immigrants. These are people who are being imported in. They're being paid for by the native people in France. Again, we're doing this in America too. Where I live in Michigan, we have Dearborn, Michigan, where you have real Michiganders, all their taxpayers, they work so hard and they feel really prideful about going to their job every day and showing up every day. Why? So they can pay for more Muslims to come into their country, admitting that they're trying to take over, while the Jews are basically taking control of Congress at the higher levels, creating legislation that allows this to happen, creating this Gog and Magog battle between Christians and Muslims, and this whole biblical holy war that doesn't even need to happen. Like, how satanic is this? And people will defend this because they're scared. And it's absolutely insane. Like, absolutely insane. We need a revolution, a crusades, and if it doesn't happen, you're gonna lose your country. And eventually, when enough of these people become politicians and fill in the city councils, they're gonna take over all of the laws in your country. They're gonna take over and basically say that you don't have the right to even talk about this. And that's just what's gonna happen. That's the plan. That's how you take over a country. And then meanwhile, you got a $1 million bond for a Detroit Lions cornerback accused of directing violent revenge plot that left 3 men pistol whipped and held at gunpoint for nearly an hour, and he gets to go to work. $1 million bond for Dalton Earthley after a shooting he and supporters say was self-defense after he attacked first, and bond revocation for misdemeanor charges they can't prove. Blacks are treated like mentally retarded children by our corrupt judicial system. I'm going to war against them. Join me against the large. Well, you know what? Listen, the videos that I see on X, some of these accusations could be true. I think that's a real thing with everybody of both races. You see this everywhere. But again, because he's a football player. He's a football player, so let him out of jail. Smiling, no remorse in his face, but everybody loves these people because they're football players. All the boomers got to watch the big game. They get good ratings on the fantasy football league. It's a joke. And these people are given like a $1 million bond. Dude, at the end of the day, you have people like Chud the Builder who are getting a $1.5 million bond and they're not getting out of jail. But they get to get out of jail so they can play football and throw a football around. What a joke. What a complete and total disgrace of the justice system. Total joke. I mean, this is just what's happening to America. Nobody's talking about it. And it's just disgraceful. It's disgraceful. Losing our country. We're losing our country. And if you say it, then you're not allowed to say it. And you're called the bad guy. Even though, meanwhile, this is literally Paris in 1900. Paris in 1900 used to be a much different place. Again, trying to pop this up. There we go. So again, got to take out the music so we don't get copyright. But this was Paris in 1900. Peaceful. You had no immigrants stabbing each other. You had no trash all over the place. You had no chaos, no anarchy, no violence. You just had good French people, native French people. Everybody dressed nice, everybody having a good time, loving life, enjoying their lives. And then today, this country is a complete dumpster fire. It's a complete terrorist zone. You can't even go to France today without it being a total terrorist zone. Absolutely insane. It's happening everywhere across the world, to European and American countries, and it's being established by the Jews through Gog and Magog, through Gog and Magog, and then essentially through the Great Replacement, the Clergy Plan. So again, you have Pope Francis just randomly listing off the war crimes by Israel. I never saw this. I saw a lot of negative things with the Pope Francis that I was not a fan of by any means. But hey, props to Pope Francis. This was an important thing he said.
Penso a Gaza, a tanta crudeltà.
The level of cruelty.
Ai bambini metragliati.
Machine gunned.
Ai bombardamenti di scuole
the bombing of
e
schools and
ospedali.
hospitals. Facts.
Quanta crudeltà.
What cruelty, he says.
Ieri
Yesterday,
sono stati bombardati
children were bombed, he says.
bambini.
Children.
Questo è
And they do it
crudeltà.
with pride.
Questo
He
non
says
è
this is
guerra.
cruelty, not a war.
Voglio dirlo perché
And he says, I'm telling you this, it breaks my heart. So, never remember seeing this from Pope Francis, but Pope Francis. A lot of the things he did I wasn't a huge supporter of, but overall, that's true. That's absolutely true, And the Israelis are called the good guys for it. They talk about the Holocaust and what happened to them and the Holocaust and World War II, but yet they're doing the same things. They are the Bolsheviks, everything the Bolsheviks did. Nobody talks about the 66 million Soviets who were killed by the Bolsheviks. 66 million Soviets. How many Europeans died in World War II again? It was 20 to 27 million Europeans in total because of a war that was fought for the sovereignty of the Jewish people. When, again, now when we hear from different kind of revisionists and we hear from different historians that a lot of these different things weren't even true, right? We hear about the gas chambers and how that wasn't even a gas chamber. We hear about the 6 million Jews and how there actually wasn't 6 million Jews and how that number was changed to 1 million Jews. And so, again, and authors who admitted that that number was a lie. It was created for basically a complete and total autobiography of the Jews. And then this same author who created the 6 million lie ended up saying that later, admitting to the fact that that wasn't the real number and that it was only like 1 million. And so, and then we also have, all the pictures you see of the Jews, and they're skinny and they're basically starving. Well, a lot of people don't know that there was starvation because of all the bombings on supply chains from the Germans, and the Germans were not able to transport goods and food to these prison camps, prisoner of war camps. Did you know that the Holocaust at Auschwitz, they were having babies? Jewish people were having babies there? Did you know that? Guess what? None of them were killed, by the way. Did you know that the Bolsheviks, on the other hand, which was 95% Jewish, they used to boil the hands of Christians and call them gloves so that the hands would slide off, the skin would slide off. Sorry to be graphic, but it's true. You know, they had a cannibal island that the Bolsheviks created that was specifically for Christians, and basically it caused like 4,000 people to eat each other. Facts, look it up. All of this is real. You know, did you know that the Bolsheviks used to torture and crucify real Christians, like actually crucify them? No, I bet you didn't. You know, you hear about all these lies told about, you know, the Germans during World War II, but here today in 2026, the Israelis are doing all of that to the people of Gaza and to the people of Palestine. And then they're also doing it to Christians by inviting in all of these third worlders as they take positions in Congress, and they're, by legislation, allowing in all of these Muslims to come into our countries. So this is like actually the Antichrist of our time is the modern state of Israel. And this is what people need to be talking about, because this is just simply what's happening. Right? I mean, look at this. A Trump freak show fair baptizes Americans under a massive Israeli flag in menorah. So this is not Christian. You know, this is the antithesis of Christian. This is anti-Christianity. This is the definition of the Antichrist. This is not what Christ had in mind. This is why the Jews killed Christ, because he was completely the opposite of them. Why do you think they just killed Jesus for no reason? Yeah, nobody's there. Except the boomers. You got a bunch of boomers who still buy into this because they just refuse to learn history. Unbelievable. So we have Jews and Muslims essentially taking over America, and our politicians just bending over and taking it. All boomers, by the way. Generation Alpha gonna change things. Thank God. Thank God the tables are turning, and the younger generation is awake to all of this. They're doing the research. I don't think they're gonna back down so easily. So again, Nick Fuentes explains why teleporting all Jews to Mars would fix our societal problems. So he explains a little bit about this entire notion.
Look how many Jews are totally pro-Muslim and pro-Palestine.
Right. I mean, most.
That's where I get the issue about like saying, if you think Jews were teleported to Mars, every Jew on Earth, that would handle all the problems.
I think that if that happened, a lot of obstacles to nationalism would disappear. Yes.
Okay.
Because who's pushing censorship?
Well, spend your time on that. Explain what you're saying.
What I'm saying is, when you look at, you talk about like the asset managers, the banks. I mean, who runs BlackRock? It's Larry Fink. When
Jewish.
Bill Ackman, who's a liberal, lifelong donor to the Democratic Party, when he saw October 7th, he flipped over to the Republican side because he knew the Republicans would arm Israel. Lifelong Democrat flipped to Republican because they would arm Israel, the so-called, you know, good ones who are on our side that don't like Muslims. Bill Ackman worked with Larry Fink to blacklist anybody that graduates from the Ivy Leagues who criticized the Palestinians. Bill Ackman said we have this problem of pro-Palestine students at Harvard, Yale, UPenn, Columbia. He went to Larry Fink and said, we got to make sure none of these guys can ever get hired in finance. That's the kind of chokehold they have over the system. Same thing with the ADL. They want Jonathan Greenblatt out, and you say, oh, well, some Jews don't like the ADL. They don't like Greenblatt. They just want a different chair of the ADL who's going to be better at shutting down anti-Semites. Anti-Semites who say, you know, Jews are loyal to Israel, they support the wars in the Middle East. So I'm saying we need to decouple. We need to recognize Judaism hates Christ. It has antipathy towards Europeans, and we need to decouple from them as a civilization.
We do.
They could go and be in Israel, that's fine. But, you know, it really gives me a lot of concern. They put bombs in the pagers, and they're involved in procurement for the U.S. military.
And our iPhones.
You know, Palantir, all these new generation defense contractors, they're all over Unit 8200. They're all over Ehud Barak over there in Israel. It's filled with shadowy corporations that are funneling their technology into our country. We're going to trust them in our
Well, I'll say this about Palantir.
And yeah, so when you look at all of this, it's honestly like exactly what's happening, right? That's kind of what we're seeing in this country. America today is being overrun by two different races from two different sides, from two, basically one another is fighting each other. The Christians are left in the middle of this. Christians, Catholics. You have Christian Zionists, a different kind of Christian who's supporting all of this, and they're basically believing that, you know, they need to be good goyim and, you know, serve the Jews and all of this crazy stuff. They believe that the Bible says the Israelis have the right to the land, and even though the New Testament basically says that basically if you reject me, Jesus Christ, if you reject me, then I will reject you and you will no longer be chosen. All of this, and the grafting on of Christians into the chosen people status. All of this has been said in the New Testament, but the Jews denounce the New Testament. They don't believe in the New Testament. So this is like the entire war. And then at the same time, you have the Jews basically taking control of our Congress, which is happening. Again, H.R. 8800, you know, the National Defense Authorization Act of the fiscal year 2027. They're literally trying to integrate with our entire military. Yes, that's absolutely what that bill has in store, right? You know, we send $300 billion. We've sent $300 billion to the Israelis since, 1946, right? The Israelis already have 200 nuclear warheads at the same time. On top of that, you also have this rhetoric as in, we have to really worry about the Iranians and a nuclear weapon. It's like they don't even have one, and the Israelis have 200. The Israelis produce our iPhones. The Israelis are capable of taking out a military with pagers and, all this stuff. They've said that any non-Jew should be killed. It's in their Talmud that even the best of Gentiles should be killed, the Goyim. This is how they speak. They speak and say that anybody who is not a Jew is basically a Goyim, and Goyim are like animals. This is what they say in their Bible. So, this is why 109 countries did not welcome the Jewish people for this kind of attitude. And, taking over political positions of power and then inviting in the third world to destroy countries by essentially conquest, allowing in these Muslims through legislation. Who's doing that? Well, it's the Jews. So that's what's going on. I mean, you see it. You have Randy Fine representing the state of Florida, and you have Ron DeSantis who took a flight to Israel and basically signed a bill that said, as in law, you are not allowed to criticize the state of Israel. He went to Israel and signed it in front of Netanyahu. That's insane. You have all of these politicians like Trump, whose administration is 80% Jewish. And so, again, they believe in Israel first. They don't believe in America. They don't want to serve America. They want to, again, make you pay taxes, and they want to collect your taxes, and they want to send you to fight and die for Israel. This is what they says. Like, rabbis have said this. So we cannot allow that to happen. So watch this video. A Swedish politician, Alexander Christensen, bows in front of an Israeli Zionist during his visit to Israel. This is what's happening with all of our politicians, by the way. And again, I made this post months ago, and it got 27,000 views, 689 likes, because people agreed with this. But again, first let's watch the video, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Look at this. The submission from the Swedish MP comes so embarrassing that the Jewish settlers begin to laugh. Look at this. They literally laugh at him. Look at this video. They're laughing at this guy. This dude right here. This is brainwashing. This is a true Goyim, if there ever was one. Jew. Look at the reaction. Even they're like cringing. They're like, I can't believe these people really buy into our stuff. Like, listen to this. He doesn't even know what to do right now. Wow. Talk about cuckold. Talk about a goy. Shabbos goy.
We have to fight our fights to get to these days.
And again, one more time. Look at his face. Like they're completely laughing at this guy. He's laughing. They're all laughing at this guy because this is total delusion. This is mental illness. This is what they call Christian Zionism. This is what the boomers really think is real. And they're laughing. The Jews are laughing because they know, dude, this is all a scheme to get you people to freaking side with us so we can take over your country without you even knowing it. And they're buying into it. So then I commented on this. Again, when did I make this comment? Scrolling down here, let's look at when I made this little comment. This was 3:04 a.m., February 7th, 2026, just a few months ago. And I said, non-Jews who bow to Jews like this are the real Goyim. And Jews know this. This is why they laugh at him. This is who the Jews are talking about when referring to Goyim, a non-thinker who knows nothing about nothing and would sell out his own nation for money and status. True Goy, easy prey. And so I took some screenshots and I attached them. Listen to this. Again, I attached these images because this is all real history. For over 2,000 years, Jews have murdered Christian children to obtain blood for Purim or Passover ritual, the Jewish Encyclopedia. Again, that's where the source comes from. Documents 121 ritual murder cases from 1146 to 1900, which were tried in courts of law, resulting in many convictions and executions for their crimes. In fact, a shrine still exists at St. Peter's Church in Trent, Italy, along with the relics and sacrificial knife which Jews used to kill children for their sacrificial murders. Look at this. It is referred to as the Simon of Trent blood ritual of 1475. Consequently, in 1557, during the Frankist disturbances in Poland, the Talmud was burned because it called for the Jews to use the blood of Christian children in their ceremonies. So again, you have these Christian Zionists who are worshiping this, and they don't know this history. Now let's listen to what some prominent Jews actually had to say. Okay, these are real quotes from Jewish people. Young white people are on an endangered list, and unlike, say, the bald eagle or some exotic species of a muskrat, you are not worth saving. In 40 years or so, maybe fewer, there won't be any more white people around, and that's a good thing. That's from Tim Wise, Jewish anti-white activist. Now let's listen to, again, this lady is Lerner Spetter, founder of the European Jewish Fund. I think there is a resurgence of anti-Semitism because at this point in time, Europe has not yet learned how to be multicultural. And I think we are going to be a part of the throes of that transformation, which must take place. Europe is not going to be the monolithic societies they once were in the last century. Jews are going to be at the center of that. It's a huge transformation for the people of Europe to make. They are now going into a multicultural mode, and Jews will be resented because of that leading role. Here's another quote from a Jewish man. The goal of abolishing the white race is, on its face, so desirable that some may find it hard to believe that it could incur any position other than from committed white supremacists. Make no mistake about it, we intend to keep bashing the dead white males and the live ones and the females too until the societal construct known as the white race is destroyed. This is Professor Noel Ignatieff, Harvard Magazine, September-October 2002. Now this quote's from Osavda Yosef. Goyim were born only to serve us. Without that, they have no place in the world, only to serve the people of Israel. Why are the Gentiles needed? They will work, they will plow, they will reap. We will sit like an offendle and eat. That is why Gentiles were created. Let's keep reading. Now we look at Clark's father, Benjamin Jacob Kahn, who was Jewish. This one's kind of hard to read. On the 24th of April, 1999, I think it says, the day NATO began bombing Yugoslavia, Wesley Clark, the general in overall command, said this on CNN. There is no place in modern Europe for ethnically pure states. That's a 19th century idea, and we are trying to transition into a 21st century, and we are not going to do it with multi-ethnic, and we are going to do it with multi-ethnic states. Now let's go on to Ishmael Levitz. He is also a Jew. It is in the Jewish interest, it is in the humanitarian interest that whites experience a genocide. until white children have burned alive, white women raped, mutilated, murdered, and all white men who have been slaughtered watch powerlessly as their people are terrorized. Only will mankind be on a more equal footing, ready to discuss white privilege and the apparent chip on the shoulder that minorities have. Oh my gosh. Again, Arthur Ox Sulzberger. He says if white men are not complaining, it should be an indication we aren't succeeding in making the inroads that we are. And again, this is Susan Sonfag. The white race is the cancer of the human history. It is the white race and it alone, its ideologies and inventions, which eradicates autonomous civilizations. Wherever it spreads, which has upset the ecological balance of the planet, which now threatens the very existence of life itself. These are Jews who said this about white people. This is what they say about white people. And make no mistake, when you look at this, what else did they say? Who both killed the Lord Jesus and their own prophets and have persecuted us, and they please not God and are contrary to all men. Jews. So it's like, it's all there in the Bible. It tells you everything you need to know. It says it in the Quran. Ultimately, this is the enemy of peace on earth, is Judaism. And I don't say that as an anti-Semite. I say that as a historian, as an analyst. And you know what? There's a reason 688 people liked this post and 27,000 people saw it. So this is what's going on, ultimately. When you see this kind of behavior of these people bowing, these Christian Zionists, totally misled on history, they've never read their Bible and they don't do their research, this is the problem we're having today. This is where things really go south for a country. You can't do this. It's just bad. At the end of the day, I'm not an anti-Semite. I believe all people have human rights. I don't call for any kind of violence like the Jews do against white people. But ultimately, I just read you a bunch of quotes from different Jews and rabbis. You just heard it. Activists. This is what they are believing today. They say it all the time. It's on Twitter. Look up the videos. You can find them all. And, you know, this needs to be fought against. Plain and simple. All human beings have human rights. And ultimately, you know, yeah, I do believe America should be a white European Christian country overall because Christianity is about peace. It's about tranquility. It's about transcendence, freedom, prosperity. And we believe in, you know, having a world where there can be some semblance of, you know, again, peace. Again, as much as I have respect for the Muslims don't seem to share that. You know, if you're not a Muslim, they believe that you should have any jihad inflicted upon you. If you're not Jewish, they believe that you should be genocided and that they're going to systematically destroy that race. I mean, that they've just said it. I just read a bunch of quotes. So that's not me who believes that. I'm just saying from an analytical standpoint, we need to be able to see what's there. Can't just pretend these things don't exist. I can only go on so long and do the research and then not be able to report on it. Anyways, oh man. On to the next thing. Sophie Cunningham broke down her viral pointing meme. The wannabe Bonner said, "Don't you point at me." Then Sophia pointed at her for about 22 seconds in a silent stare down.
I was just kind of pointing, and she's like, don't you point at me. And I was like, oh, shouldn't have said that. And I didn't say a word.
She just did it. Yeah. And so, again, that was a pretty viral clip that went viral over the weekend. I ended up making a little comment on it myself. Just like, kind of funny how white women in professional basketball still actually looked like women when the black women in basketball almost always looked like men. Listen, I said this as kind of a troll, but I still think it's funny because it's kind of true. And ironically, this got 19,000 views, 146 likes. But it's like, seriously, why do they act like this? Like, you just can't, you know, there is truly a systematic hatred to white people today because of the propaganda that is in schools and what they really are putting on television and in commercials, you know, on the internet, everywhere you look. So it's ridiculous. You got this beautiful white girl here playing the game, and then you got these basketball females, I guess, and they're acting like animals. They're acting crazy. They're about to fight this girl. If it wasn't for the refs, they'd be getting in a fist fight. Just why is it always violence with them? You know, I mean, come on, African Americans, you need to clean up your act. You know, I'm not going to just pretend like it doesn't exist. You know, white people got their problems, but geez, why is it always the videos I see on X where it seems to be this one group of people who is really going out of their way to do this. And again, I don't say this as a racist. I'm not a racist, but I'm an analyst. I analyze what's new and happening in the world. And to me, I thought this was an interesting thing. You know, you're just seeing this every day. You're just seeing black people teaming up on white people. You know, white people are bad. White people are racist. Luckily, you got one black girl who's defending the white girl. But I cannot believe the level of racism towards white people today. It's absolutely insane. Just totally uncalled for in so many ways. So again, it's like, clean up your act. You know, we can be a great country again. Read your history. Figure out, black people really have this belief that white people created slavery when it was actually the Jews who created the slave trade. That's in the Jewish Encyclopedia. The Jews brought African Americans over here on the ships, right? And so it's just like, okay, let's just stop with the notion of slavery and all this crap and that white people were the problem, right? And so it leads me to make these kind of comments on X too, right? So again, this was a little more of a positive thing. A Texas man is taking world tourists four-wheeling, dancing, horseback riding, and shopping at Buc-ee's to give them the best American experience. Drew Haas of Texas is taking tourists to his 30-acre property to help them make the most of their travels. And so again, this is a Polish couple who ended up coming to America for the FIFA Cup World Games. They wanted to get a little taste of American culture and American life. Why can't we bring more of the European and Slavics to America as immigrants? Look at this.
Through the muck of South Central Texas.
Polish
Rojas
couples.
invited two
They'd
couples
fit right into America. They'd fit right in here.
Poland and France to his 30-acre spread for a 2-day taste of Texas.
I want to show them my Texas and get them to experience that because I wanted to open the world up to my home. My soul's been lit on fire.
Your soul's been lit on fire?
Been lit on fire just seeing all these people enjoy themselves here.
Let's do some cowboy stuff.
David Mazur and Martina Bijinska live in Silesia, southwestern Poland.
And you're going to go out, and then you're going to grab my hand right here. Just
Haas
like
taught them to dance the two-step.
I would say it's all
That's awesome. If we're going to invite immigration into America, then let's bring in the people who would fit in here maybe, our brothers and sisters in Europe who are just like us, who share our history, our common religions, our common customs, all of these things that our ancestors shared. Like, we come from the same place. You know, a lot of Americans, our DNA goes to Europe, and they will say, well, Europeans are immigrants. It's like, yeah, but we share the same customs and cultures and DNA, literally. Like, literally, our ancestors came from, again, Poland or Ireland, whether it's Scotland, whether it's Germany. Guess what? We were all farmers. A lot of us were Roman Catholic Christians, our families. And again, you know, these people fit in. Conservative European white people, we should be bringing them into the United States. Those are the immigrants that would actually benefit America, and they would fit into our culture and our customs, our way of life. They would benefit society versus bringing in Indians and Muslims who hate America. They want to change America. They have a true disdain for America. And again, Somalis who are defrauding the public, and, you know, they're just like total hatred. They're stabbing girls on subways. And then you have these beautiful Polish people who are coming in, enjoying our culture.
Like John Wayne westerns. You just want to see it for yourself.
I was a bit skeptical about it, but then I just feel like, yes, I can do this all day.
Haas also took them to Buc-ee's. This one has 98 pumps and aisles of Americana. Think about it. They were smitten by a mega gas station.
This is the America that I want to live in. This is the America that I know it can be.
Me too.
Turns out America is her own best ambassador.
We really love this lifestyle. We
love this lifestyle, they say.
enjoy every second of it. We just want to
We enjoy every second of it.
soak it in.
We just want to soak it in. These people love our country. They love this place. But we want to bring in Indians and Muslims and Somalians and Sudanians, and these people hate us, and they are not even of the same religion. These people are probably Roman Catholics, Christians, and so they probably share a lot of our same lifestyle, our religion. And so it's like, why don't we bring in the right immigrants if we're going to invite immigrants? So I said this. I made a comment on it on Twitter. I said, if America must welcome immigration, I'd welcome any white, conservative Europeans and Slavs like these who would fit into American life versus third world Somalis, Indians, and Muslims who hate America and have completely opposite cultures and customs. Common sense. I say this as a 10th generation American whose ancestors came from Scotland in 1752. It's got 424 likes and 11,300 views, and it's still counting. So it's crazy, you know, when we look at the comments here. Again, of course, I had somebody calling me a racist. It's like I told her right away. It's like, your comment proves my point, and exactly why I make the comments I do. Your attitudes is exactly the garbage real Americans want to avoid. We're sick of being called racist by actual racists against white people. Drop the name calling or go back to your country of national origin. Seriously. It's like, if you're going to be racist towards white people, then get out of our country. You know, and of course you have the white liberal who says, don't use the word whites. Just reinforces racism. Go by behavior, not appearance. And I say, it's racist to say white? And then I said, I meant what I said. American and European white people assimilate more than others. America and Europe are of white descent, and it should stay that way. Non-whites are racist against whites from what I see today, which does appear to be the case. And I'm not saying that as a racist. It's crazy. So we got a huge response from this on Twitter, but it's just like, it seems to me like it's common sense. Like, how is this arguable? You know, why would we want a bunch of third world immigrants and Somalians and Muslims who make it a point that they do not want our country and they don't like our country? Like, I don't get it. Makes no sense. So when I look at it all, I think it's crazy. You know, you look at things going on in the world today, and it's just like, really, you know, what is the main objective of our country? You know, what is the real agenda? And I think maybe we should care more about making sure our country is safe and beloved. And we share a common custom, you know. America was settled by European immigrants, and yeah, so it should stay that way. If we're going to have more immigrants, they should be Europeans. It's common sense. You know, really, at the end of the day, we share the same religion, same customs. We're farmers, we're innovators, we're entrepreneurs. That's what we do, right? We're police officers. We bust our ass. We work at jobs. That's what we do. And so that's what we do. And it needs to be that way. So now let's just look at any kind of breaking news that's going in the algorithm today. Sneako seethes that Nick Fuentes saying he wants America to kick ass like Israel. Oh, God. I'm sick of Sneako. Come on, Sneako. Wake up. So, again, this is an interesting clip. Let's check this out.
That they actually, I'm not even making this up, that they opened the windows.
The myth
and
of the gas
threw
chambers.
The Zyklon B in the windows.
German engineering.
Okay, so then Mydonic you get through real quick. Let's debunk Mydonic in one photograph. There's the windows, okay? And so the story with Mydonic is that they actually, I'm not even making this up, that they opened the windows and they threw the Zyklon B in the windows from outside. That's how they allegedly gassed people at Mydonic.
It's so... We're supposed to just sit and believe this and not question it.
Right.
Like someone's not...
But there was no cyanide on the walls, you know, and that's always what I have to
knock
say.
The window out as we're getting gassed. It's just so absurd. That was the story.
Yes, and so when you put all that in context, it becomes obvious it was wartime propaganda that has, over time, grown into history. And like you said, people all over Europe can go to jail just for having this conversation today.
Like years in prison.
Insane.
Right. I'm sure there'll be some kind of blowback on doing the show in general.
Yeah.
Oh well. This is part of history that needs to be rewritten.
100%.
The people who perpetuate this.
I'm not a fan of Jake Shields either. I think he goes a little far with the anti-Jewish and the, you know, a lot of his rhetoric. But, you know, he brings on great guests like this who are real historians and they've actually evaluated the issue. And it's true. There is a lot of history about the Holocaust and World War II that does need to be revised. And there does need to be a real history lesson on what actually happened. We can't pretend like, you know, that everything we've been told in school is correct and accurate when it's just not.
Are enemies of humanity. Ultimately, when you lie about history, you steal people's essence from them, and there's no punishment too great for that.
Yeah. They're rewriting history. They're trying to hide the real histories. They're trying to lie and slander different peoples and different races. It's terrible. So again, when we look at some of the other breaking news, doesn't seem to be much else going on in the algorithm today. What else? Russia stands in the way of evil.
Factor of power that stands against evil. Like I said, they have always failed. They will fail this time, and they will fail forever. We
will see.
Try to.
So whose side do you take? The Russians, the Ukrainians? Who is correct? Massive development just 9 hours ago. Professor Morandi, hold on, because my computer's glitching. Drops a terrifying ultimatum confirming Iran is prepared for the ceasefire to collapse. He warns if Trump escalates, Iran will trigger global economic depression to force regime change in Washington. So really, yeah, I mean, they're going to continue squeezing those choke points.
In fact, over the last 10 days, ever since the siege was lifted, Iran has exported huge quantities of oil, much more than any other country, and it is preparing itself for another potential conflict with the United States. The Americans lost the war, and if they, but it is possible that they will carry out.
And it's annoying because we did lose this war, because it was a war that strategically and militarily we did not need to fight. Former Green Beret director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, even said the same thing. This was a war that militarily, tactically, by the way, Charlie Kirk said the same thing. We should not have been fighting this Iran war. Ultimately, Iran having nuclear weapons as the main excuse to fight in the war. Well, what about Israel? How come we don't get to know more about Israel, who sold our nuclear secrets to Russia, who sold all of our nuclear secrets to many of our adversaries around the planet? China, same thing. Jonathan Pollard was the Israeli who did that. And again, Israel has 90 to 200 nuclear warheads, and most are confirming that it's 200 now. And so, why aren't we allowed to know more about that? How is Israel not the real, actor of terror here? Obviously, again, in 10 years, I know I'm going to be proven right. In 10 years, I'm going to be on the right side of history with this, because it's true. And the Israelis need to be put in their place, and ultimately they are the real aggressors of terror across the entire world right now at our current time in history. This has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. Can't call me an anti-Semite. Never can. But at the end of the day, it's like, this is just the truth of the matter. And so we lost this war as Americans because this was not a war that we were ever going to win. Militarily and strategically, it made no sense.
Iran is preparing for it, even though it lost that war. But the Iranians want to make sure that the Americans recognize that this time around, if there's another war, the Iranians will ensure that there will be a global economic depression that
we're already in one, too. We're already in one. That's the scary thing.
Regime change in Washington. The United States, next time, if there's another war with Iran, the world will not be able to tolerate it, and the world will blame Trump.
Yeah, and they will. They're going to blame Trump because Trump allowed the Israelis to suck him into this war, and really to no benefit. So again, we see a lot of anti-Semitic stuff on Twitter. We see a lot of, anti-Muslim stuff. We're trying to skiff through the truth, and we're trying to find information that's actually, necessary. 16 hours ago, a planned large-scale attack on Jerusalem was disrupted after Israeli forces found a 25-meter tunnel shocked with explosives and heavy weapons in East Jerusalem village, Israeli authorities say. So this is footage of that. That was the explosion you just heard. So again, pretty crazy. More on the reflecting pool. Bunch of liberals trying to cut it up. Again, committing crimes, doing what they do. We've heard enough about the reflector pool. So really, honestly, just crazy. As we continue looking through the algorithm, that's pretty much all we have time for today. But what do you think about all of this? What do you think about World War III, where we're sitting today with everything? What do you think about the Iran war? What do you think about the Israel-Lebanon war, the control that Israel does appear to have over the United States and our Congress, again, via H.R. 8800, National Defense Authorization Act of the fiscal year 2027? What do you think about, again, the Sneako Rabbi Mizrachi debate, and basically them both saying that Christianity is an idol-worshiping religion when it's obviously not, and I believe that their religions are idol-worshiping religions, but again, I don't believe that they deserve to die for it. I don't believe that they deserve to burn in hell for it. And the only difference between Christianity and Islam and Judaism is that they seem to believe that Christians are the only ones who deserve to burn in hell and have jihad thrown upon them. It's really kind of weird. And it's almost like they're working together to destroy America and Europe. They truly are. And so, we're being hit from two sides here. And ultimately, there needs to be a crusade, and there does need to be a real revolution that, is fundamental in Christ. And that doesn't mean it has to be violent, but it does have to be a revolution of the truth. And this has to do with, ideological warfare, ideological subversion, all of the history that we've been taught, the textbooks that they're trying to, force our children to read. All of these things are a lie. So these things we need to be changing in American society today. And I just want to get my country back. America first. That's what this is all about. That's what this show is about. So that's kind of where I stand. What do you think? Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.